What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 10 of the Pack Mentality Podcast, your number one source for Zombies Discourse. I'm your host, AQ Devi, and today we are joined by Cinerax. Unfortunately, Shorbsy is out on vacation this week, so he will not be joining us, but Cinerax came to me and wanted to discuss the yearly cycle with COD Zombies. And before we get into it, I just want to ask Cinerax, as we do all of our guests, what got you into zombies, and from there we can go wherever we're gonna go. So Cinerax, welcome to the Pack Mentality Podcast, and what got you into Call of Duty Zombies?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and all the people that watch. For getting into zombies, I started all the way back at World at War, had a friend show me what Noctur on Toten was, and we sat on top of that staircase for hours and hours and hours getting to round 10. And then I actually did forget about zombies for just a little bit until Black Ops 1, Kino der Toten brought me back in, and it's been nonstop since then, which means it's been nonstop for 16 years, and I feel old now.
I hear you, man. Yeah, I it's funny because most of the people that I seem to interact with, like, they enjoy modern zombies to some extent, but we've all started back in World at War, Black Ops 1 for me, and it's funny when people think of like modern zombies enjoyers, it's always like, oh, you started in Cold War or something, but we exist. We're right here, so.
It is sometimes true that they do come from Cold War and newer, only they
Sure.
don't even know the old stuff, but there are many people who come from old times like we do, and we love both. It's possible. I promise. It's okay to love both.
Said from the man himself.
Of
Yeah,
course.
that's absolutely right. Yeah, so you kind of posed a question to me on Discord about the yearly COD zombie cycle and what we think its place is. Sort of, should it be a thing? Should it be how it is now? Should it change and evolve? Maybe go back to what it might have been before. So yeah, I want to get your like initial thoughts on the topic, and we can kind of go back and forth and see what we think, if that's okay with you.
Oh, absolutely. That's okay. And if you don't mind, I am going to detour your show already. And I know I didn't talk about this before, but I know you have a quota around here, and I just want to make sure we hit it because I don't know if it's going to come up again. So in that case, what's up, Shelly? How you doing?
What's up, Shelly?
Hope you're good. Glad to see you. I'm going to see you in the comments. I'm looking for you after this comes out. All right, Shelly? Don't let me down.
Thank you
Back to the
for
question,
that.
though. Of course, yes. Back to the question, though. This actually came up because I saw a poll from Expert Fusion where he was asking about different scenarios he'd like to see for how zombies can be implemented every year, or maybe every other year, or other special modes on other titles that aren't from Treyarch. So this has always been a discussion, but that post kind of brought me back to thinking about it. So what I
Sure.
did is I looked back at the list of all of the zombies games we've had, or all of the Call of Duties we've had, and which ones have had zombies and have not had zombies. So right here, I'm just going to rifle through this so we can know what the pattern's been up to this point, and then we can go from there. So first zombies game, World at War. Then we had a bit of back and forth. So we had zombies in World at War, did not the next year, came back for Black Ops, skipped another year. Then we went on a bit of a run. Black Ops 2 had zombies, Ghosts had Extinction, which is close, but is not zombies, so no. But then Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, World War II, and Black Ops 4, 5 years in a row, all had zombies. Before Modern Warfare 2019 took a break, and since then we've been on another run. Cold War and Vanguard had it, skipped Modern Warfare 2, and then Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 6, and now Black Ops 7 have had zombies. When this was first posed, I was thinking to myself, yeah, we've had a run of nearly 5 years in a row. That feels like that's never happened before, and that's probably why we're having this fatigue. But then I look here, and it's actually a lesser streak than we've seen in the past. So that poses the question, why do we seem to see all this burnout now? And I think that is down to the homogenization of all of these Call of Duty titles that we have seen since 2019. They're sharing a launcher, they're sharing an engine, everything has to talk to each other, and it makes everything less unique. which was something we didn't have a problem with between Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 4. There were massive overhauls to gameplay systems between each of those games in general and also within the Zombies side. So, what do I think? I think that when I first heard the question, I thought, no, we should probably let there be a break until Black Ops 8 or whatever they call the next game. Give it a 2-year break and see what people think when it comes back, which we've actually never even had a 2-year break, which I thought was crazy. I feel like we had to have had it before, but we haven't.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So now that I've thought about it more, I'm thinking selfishly, it would be nice to have zombies content that's new to make videos on now that I've started picking up the YouTube thing over the last few years. But I also do think we at least need a 1-year break because of how similar these modes have been over the last 6 years, skipping Modern Warfare 2. I'm going to start there with my thoughts. I'm going to hand it over to you now to give me some of your opening thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, that was very well said and very well put. Yeah. You sent me this sort of graphic over, and seeing it laid out, that's not how like my brain sort of thinks about it. A 5-year run, and to an extent, like if you count Ghosts, kind of, it would be a 7-year run.
Yep.
Although obviously Extinction's a little different. Wow. And we've never had a 2-year gap since the inception of Zombies. Yeah. Just looking at it, what do I think of the cycle, and what would I do differently? Do we want a break? I guess a lot of it to me falls onto kind of what you were talking about with the homogenization of all these games. Like, since Warzone has become a thing, it seems like every 2 or 3 titles after that point sort of are made in this kind of grouping. Like Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Vanguard were obviously all on the same engine, and then Modern Warfare 2 to now Black Ops 7 is all on the same engine. The changes to the engine, I think, are a big thing of it. So I have to ask, when you're saying at least a year break, is that including the idea that in the next title we're going to get an engine update, or does that change things? Like, for instance, if the engine doesn't change versus if it does, how would that sort of change your opinion on how long you would want to break, or if you would want one at all?
I don't think that changes my opinion. And regardless, we're getting a 1-year gap at bare minimum, because there, at least as far as we know, is not going to be zombies in the next game. So
Sure.
If they do an overhaul, I'm okay with zombies coming back in the title after that. And I do reference back to the gap between Black Ops 4 and Cold War. There was only 1 year between that, but after 5 years of zombies, there was a slight break. And when Cold War came back, there was a ton of hype that came back. There was a renewed interest in the mode because we had just a slight break between those titles hitting with zombies in it. And we haven't had that since. There has not been nearly as much hype for any mode since then. I think even a 1-year gap at minimum could do that again, especially if people are anticipating a new engine and game systems overhauls like we got for the what's now modern Zombies. We heard all of the changes they were making for Cold War, and that brought a lot of hype to people. And then it didn't change a ton for the next 6 years. And so if they get a year gap plus a new engine, change the game systems, I'm just thinking we can have another Cold War situation where there is a ton of interest, because right now there really isn't that much, at least not in the YouTube space. You can reference that as a sort of temperature check. Of course, people are playing the mode. They're not going to keep making it if no one's playing it, but it is a more casual focused audience. And the people who really care, who do the Easter eggs, who make videos, watch videos, they're just not as interested now because there's been so much of similar stuff recently. But do a year gap and you might see that change quickly.
That's a very good point. I'm in just looking at this, and you brought up a great point. Black Ops Cold War, for all of its flaws and all the criticism it gets today, like, it had a lot of hype surrounding it, as did Black Ops 6. And I'm wondering, I'm trying to like create this ratio in my head of how much of the hype for those specific games is sort of split between not just the break that we had from the games prior, but also what was going on in the story and what the community was anticipating for maybe gameplay changes. Like, when I look at the hype for Cold War, it was, in my opinion, a lot of the hype came from what was going to be next after these supposed brackets to the Aether storyline that Blundell had kind of set out to create. And for Black Ops 6, like, we wanted gameplay changes and differences, again, with all the criticisms of Cold War and obviously the weaker entry with Vanguard. So I'm wondering how much of that, like, we can argue is because of the gap. But without argument, Cold War and Black Ops 6 definitely had a lot of hype. And yeah, I wonder if that is because of the gap or if there's other things included in that.
I'm sure it's a mix of things, but the gap does help regardless. Just it's the yearning for what you don't have or haven't had. I mean, yeah, I'd like to point out how much hype there was for Vanguard. I'm just kidding. There's no hype. I actually look at the Cold War hype a little differently than you. I think just obviously people were excited that it's coming back, and there was curiosity about the story they were going to tell after how Black Ops 4 ended. But I think a lot of my interest, at least in the people I talked to back in 2020, was more interested in how the gameplay was changing, because that was the big focus in their marketing too. I don't remember them talking much about the story during the marketing. They of course mentioned like, oh, this is an offshoot, not an offshoot, but a form of continuation of the story we've seen before. But it was a lot of, there's no perk limit. We're changing how we're gonna have, there's gonna be salvage, and then the whatever rare salvage, whatever they call it. I don't even remember what they called that now. And you can craft things, and you can collect all these different items or the different grenades and equipment off the ground, all those types of changes, armors coming in, rarities, multiple pack-a-punches. I remember that being the focus more than the story. But then for Black Ops 6, absolutely, I agree that people were just like, I want something different. We had Vanguard, we had Modern Warfare 3. We can't do that anymore. We need some good old round-based zombies, and that's what Black Ops 6 is going to bring for us.
I agree. Like, yeah, I think any anticipation for what was coming with the story was really for people that were really hardcore, because like you said, I feel like they didn't market it a ton. Maybe that was for like the sake of mystery, like what's going on with this new storyline, but I totally agree. And it was one of the things that made me the most excited about something like Cold War was the mechanics changes. And it's funny, I hate to name drop, but I remember looking back, and Milo, Mr. Waffles, was so like hyped to see all these changes to the elements of the gameplay. And I only say it's funny because looking back now, I don't think he'd touch that game. But
no, not at all.
It really was the sort of, I think people would argue Cold War is like the first step into modern zombies, and they did change a lot. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think I do agree for sure that a break, as you said, a sort of yearning for what we don't have, definitely adds to the excitement and the anticipation for what comes next. So yeah, do we want to break is the question. Do we want that extra hype at the cost of not getting a new game with zombies? It's hard to say. That's a very good question. I'm so glad that you like brought this to me. I'm the thing that I'm like leaning on is who is the one that's getting skipped out on? What studio is the one getting sort of like, don't do zombies so we can have the hype for the next studio that does it? I mean, if we are going to take a break year, whether it be this year, which it sounds like, or Sledgehammer, or both, I would at least want, in my opinion, Infinity Ward to take the back seat and not do zombies. What do you think about that?
Good news for you. It's gonna be them taking the back seat no matter what. They're next on the plate, and they don't have zombies, and I don't know if they have anything else. And that is the other part to this question: is even if we don't get a new zombies mode every year, do you want to see a new PvE mode at least in every one? Thinking, Extinction, that was great. It's a break from zombies, but still can cater to the people who like the zombies world at least more than like a DMZ did. I didn't care for that at all in Modern Warfare 2. I didn't touch it more than maybe an hour. So would you want to see alternate modes, Extinction or other forms of PvE modes in lieu of zombies, and maybe alternate every year between that? Zombies, then something else, then zombies, then something else.
Yeah. In preparation for this, in just like reading the sort of topic that you had brought forth, Extinction stuck out to me, and I sort of had similar ideas to what you're talking about, of like, well, if they don't do zombies, if we want that to sort of stay its own thing, I would like to see them at least try new things that are PvE. DMZ, I personally was a massive fan of it. As someone that had never played extraction shooters, I had a great time with it personally. And I think there are a lot of flaws with Extinction, but I really do enjoy, like, at least the aesthetics and just the sort of different mythos surrounding that mode. So, and it sort of goes back to what you talked about with the homogenization of these games, is not just in their engines and their sort of gameplay feel, but it almost seems like even now in story, they're doing a similar thing, where they're like combining these universes that were once kept separate. My brain's going too fast for all of this. Honestly, yeah, all that to say, like, I think it would be nice to sort of distance the studios and the stories again, because when it's all one continuous story, you sort of feel like you're never really getting a break. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Modern Warfare 3 had soap, but that was still lumped in with this Dark Aether Zombies mode. Like, yeah, it's getting really weird compared to looking like 10 years back, when this span of 5 games, AW, BO3, Infinite Warfare, World War II, BO4, like, obviously apart from the Black Ops games, like, all these studios were trying completely different things away from anything that Treyarch was doing, and it was a really fun time for seeing like what sort of different innovative version of zombies that the studios were going to give a try.
I think that is a great point, and something I'm going to touch on in just a second. But you brought up them merging this stupid story into one stupid, dumb universe, and that is something that has pissed me off to no end since they started doing that. I would rant about it, but I might end up flipping my desk over if I start, so I'm going to not do that. But I'm going to let it be known that I hate that they've done that so much. It doesn't make sense for Zombies and Warzone and the campaigns and multiplayer to share. It doesn't make sense, especially across Black Ops and Modern Warfare games, where they're not designed to be together. You are like smashing a square through a circle trying to make this happen, and it doesn't make sense. It does nothing to benefit the... Oh God, I'm done. I can't do it. All right, moving on. Yes, the difference in the games, or that 5-year gap of Advanced Warfare to Black Ops 4, is why I don't think there were complaints about it at the time. Advanced Warfare, it's Advanced Warfare, it's super advanced timeline. Black Ops 3, while that game is set futuristically, the Zombies mode itself was not. It was more of a standard time frame, which is great that they separated those things, which they would never dare to do now, it seems. But they did it back then. Infinite Warfare, completely different aesthetic. It's got all the references to the 70s, 80s, 90s, going through all those eras. World War II is a horror-focused game, and then Black Ops 4 is back to the more classic Zombies feel, if you want to call it that. Versus the current run, Cold War Vanguard, Black Ops 6 and 7 are all pretty much in the same bubble. And then Modern Warfare 3 is a little different, but still shares many of the same mechanics. So it's a lot of the same thing over and over again. And that's the homogenization I'm talking about. There's a reason people are saying that Black Ops 7 is Cold War 3.0, is because they think it's the same game. And even though it isn't, I understand where some of these people are coming from, that we've seen very similar things since Cold War, especially between Black Ops 6 and 7. I mean, those two games are very similar, and I still think that Black Ops 7 is a good step above 6, but they are similar at the end of the day. You can't deny that. So,
Of course.
Even if they did bring a zombies mode next year, as long as they changed it enough, I don't see it being a big issue.
Sorry, I was taking a sip of water. My
You're
dumb
good.
camera won't focus again. Yeah, I agree that like the separation of those modes, like I totally see what you're saying. That is what sort of didn't allow for the fatigue that you're talking about. I'd like to point out the reason that I said I was okay with skipping Infinity Ward for Year of Zombies, and instead, here's the thing: I don't know if I would prefer to have a 2-year gap or if I would like to see Sledgehammer give it another stab. That I don't know what case you might make, whichever way that would be, but to me, Sledgehammer has always been the sort of innovators of whatever the hell else is going on in the COD franchise at the time. Like, just looking at this list, like, Advanced Warfare at the time was such a... It was like a mass overhaul of the franchise that Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare would later iterate on. And then all of a sudden, it's their turn again. They go back to boots on the ground, in the trenches, World War II. Like, Sledgehammer, I'll say it again, there's the sort of innovators looking at what's been going on and being able to adapt to that rather than just continue the trend, if that makes sense. Obviously, it's a sort of different case with Modern Warfare 3 that they were in charge of, because that was like that was the first 2-year sort of back-to-back run. But in general, I think Sledgehammer has a lot of creativity muscles to flex, and I'd be very interested to see what they could do. But yeah, what do you think? Would you prefer a 2-year gap in the next 2 years, or would you just let Infinity Ward take the sidelines and see what Sledgehammer can cook up?
I prefer a 1-year gap. I fear the 2 would be pretty long, and I might start crying in a corner of a room without new zombies to play. I think I might go insane. So I would say a 1-year gap, and I'm gonna do another name drop because why not? Hometown Killer. I know he has a vendetta against Infinity Ward, and so do I, because they have just been effing everything up over the last few years. So yeah, them on the sideline, perfectly fine by me. Put them over there, let them just do whatever the fuck they're gonna do next year, and then figure it out after that. Then Sledgehammer, they have had a mixed bag of a situation. They have been innovators, and that is good that they're trying. Sometimes it doesn't land. Advanced Warfare, multiplayer, campaign, both very good. I really love that multiplayer. But the zombies is pretty rough. The way that mode works, just it betrays itself by giving you an exosuit and then just dumping EMP zombies on you and removing it basically from the game. So you have that issue. And then World War II had an amazing foundation, but a lot of those maps were kind of after release and made it hard for people to stick around. But the base mechanics of what they did in World War II, phenomenal. One of my favorite just foundational setups for a zombies game. And then Vanguard was a complete mess, which ended up resulting in Treyarch having to swoop in and save the day. So I would be worried that that would happen again, because kind of the only things I've heard about Sledgehammer recently is that they haven't been able to function properly to actually make a game. That's why Vanguard was so rough, and that's why they were basically just a supporting studio for making Modern Warfare 3. I don't even know, honestly, maybe you know, are they going to be in charge of another full-on game after Infinity Ward does their thing this year?
I don't actually know. I think with everything that I have heard and what's like sort of stuck with me is that they are. I think we're kind of operating under that assumption. You did bring up a great point that completely escaped me, which is that they were in charge of Vanguard. I completely forgot about that because I look at that as Treyarch Zombies, and admittedly I didn't play a lot of the multiplayer and never played the campaign of that, but I forgot that that was supposed to be Sledgehammer's another Sledgehammer Zombies iteration, or whatever it was going to be. I'm not sure it was Zombies, but yeah, I completely forgot about that. Wow, that's a great point. And you know that you brought up a great point. That was another thing that stuck with me when you brought up this discussion point, was that Infinity Ward has sort of been stepping on other studios' toes. And I thought that that was an interesting thing to bring up, is that the gap for me, some of it sort of depends on, will Treyarch be able to stay in their own lane without having to babysit for anyone else? That is a huge thing that has been on my mind since all this news came out about what Infinity Ward had been doing and what Treyarch had been forced to do. Right. And every time I say it, it sounds like the worst thing ever to say as a modern zombies enjoyer, which is that, like, I feel like the next game is going to be fantastic. Because that just sounds like cope out the ass. But I always say that with the asterisk that I think that that game is going to be what the community craves if Treyarch can do their own thing uninterrupted. It's a huge sticking point for me. I think that they can marry a lot of the ideas that the community is so split on and what they enjoy. They might be able to find a fantastic balance of that. In my opinion, I think they've done pretty darn well with Black Ops 7. It's by far one of my favorite games, if not my favorite zombies game so far. But obviously a lot of people are still feeling sort of left out with the systems, and mostly the modern zombies mechanics. Yeah. But I think if the team can just sit down and say, okay, no more having to help everyone else out, no more having to split our workload up into 2 years instead of one, I think they could really make something fantastic. I think Kevin Drew has been doing a phenomenal job with what they have been given situationally. Yeah, what do you have to say about that particular talking point? Because it's a huge thing that just sits in the back of my mind and eats away at me.
It eats away at me as well, and you can look back. I'm going to push you all the way back to Black Ops 4, and this is really where the problem started for Treyarch, and it kind of never ended. They got canned on Black Ops 4 before they could finish what they wanted to do. Granted, that was not to save another game. They just had Activision pull the plug and say, you're done, start working on your next game. So they had to bump out of Black Ops 4 early to start Cold War. Then doing Cold War, they got bumped out of doing their own game to go save Vanguard. They finally finished that and said, all right, let's cook on Black Ops 6. Oh, wait, no, we have to go save Modern Warfare 3 now. And so they've been delayed on every single game since really 2018. they've been getting pushed around to save the other studios as best they can, which is impressive, but it sucks. And then Black Ops 7, I would say, is probably the game that they've had the most time to work on, and is likely what they wanted Black Ops 6 to be if they had the time to get there.
Agreed.
So Black Ops 7 is easily the best out of what they've done since Black Ops 4. And I think it's fairly obvious to see that if they're given time, they can make something that's really damn good, like Black Ops 7. So I would agree. They need to just, after this game is done, be left alone, let them cook, go make their game, and don't force them to ditch it and go save somebody else. If they do that, I think we actually might get a really good zombies mode that a lot of people could like. It could give them time to actually implement mechanics that aren't shared across the game entirely. We haven't seen that since Black Ops 4 because they've had to constantly kind of scrap their own games together. It's like, we can't get away from armor, most likely. One, I think they just like it, but two, they got Warzone to worry about. And they also have other games to worry about. They can't escape it, so they don't have time to do all this stuff. And sure, I agree, I sound like a shill for the company, but it's a reality of the situation that they might go in with one plan, but they get pulled off and now they can't do it. We don't know what Treyarch would do with a actual full uninterrupted development time because we haven't seen it in 8 years.
8 years. Yeah, that hurts. It's if nothing else, one thing I'm very thankful about is that instead of, well, I guess what we got was, okay, Treyarch is developing the newest iteration of Zombies, Black Ops 6, and in finding out that, hey, this is going to be a 2-year cycle, they saved the good stuff for 7 instead of, okay, let's dump what we have and create the next game from scratch, because it definitely would have felt uneven reversed. I think we would have left on a much more sour taste in our mouths, assuming the trajectory that Black Ops 7 is going. Yeah, man, it's a huge sticking point. I really hope Activision can lock in and see what can come of it when they're not just looking at numbers. The thing is, the numbers would speak if they pulled their heads out of their asses, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I at least, and obviously with the knowledge that we're already getting a gap year in this year's iteration, I think that's a good thing. Now, whether or not Sledgehammer is in charge of the game after that, I can take it or leave it. I'd be very curious to see what they do if they are in charge of a full on release and their own third mode, not Treyarch. Yeah, I'm with you. I think a big thing is just to give the studios their space to do their own thing instead of leaning on each other, because it just creates these sort of highs and lows that I don't think are necessary, and it just leaves a weird impression on the player base.
Yeah, it kind of ruins your impression of a studio based on how this is going. I mean, of course, we're not actually there, so we don't know how much this stuff is true, but if it is true, I think of Treyarch as like the saviors of Call of Duty, because they keep getting pulled in to save things and just making miracles happen left and right. And then you look at Infinity Ward, and again, if it's true, you're like, you're kind of an asshole, and I don't like you, and I don't want you to make games anymore. It's a whole slew of issues that come from having to steal from other studios. But I think we've gone through a lot here about the cycle of Zombies games. So, and you gave your thoughts. So I think I'll just give my little quick run through of what I'd like to see. The 1 year gap, absolutely. Sledgehammer, at the very least, a new form of special mode for PvE, and whether that be something like an extinction, or it's an alternate form of zombies, or if it is a sort of DMZ type thing, whatever. Just, I want them to have some form of co-op mode in there. And it could be Zombies 2 if they want to go that route. Just shake it up and don't make it like the last few games. And then after that, it's Treyarch's turn. and just please shake it up. We can move out of the modern era now. We've had plenty of games there, more than any other era if you want to break them down like that. So I think Black Ops 8 is a really big turning point for zombies, and if it's not done correctly, it could be a big problem.
That's well said. Yeah, there's no telling what opportunities might await the new engine that we're supposedly getting this year with Infinity Ward's Modern Warfare 4, supposedly. So I'm hoping that not only does the gameplay feel incredible, which in my opinion it does with this current engine, I see nothing but hopefully an upgrade to that, but also that Treyarch can just do their own thing. It's such an important thing, and I think if given the time and the opportunity to stay in their lane, we can really make something or see something good happen of it. So we're about 37 minutes in. I know you wanted to touch on another topic here. If you still did, while we got a little bit more time. It's something I've seen you passionately talk about before in private, and even to some extent on your channel. What are your thoughts on the current situation of leaks in the COD Zombies community?
I'll sum it up in 2 words. We won. There's no more leaks, baby. This is the best thing I've ever had. It's been so good. I didn't even realize how good we had it before the leaks, because it's been so long that we've been flooded with leaks. We kind of know what's coming every single time a map comes out, that I forgot what it was like to just not know what's happening in a map. I don't know a single thing about Totenreich, and I love that. I am loving that moment. I am excited for when I get to play it in a few weeks, and I'm just going to walk in. I'm not going to know, oh, well, there's only 2 versions of Nuketown. It's just Nuketown again, guys. It's like, okay, sure, that's true, but I could have found that out myself. I didn't need you to tell me in advance. So I am happy that the leaks are stopped. I think it is a good thing that we can actually get hype given to us by the devs again. There is another side to this, though, that I've had an issue with since really, I think Black Ops 6 is when I started to notice it, is that even Treyarch themselves, they talk too much. You don't need to tell us everything about a map before it comes out. Leaks, we know about things weeks to months in advance, sometimes like a year in advance, which is insane to me. But then Treyarch, even themselves, I think they're going to do it again with Totenreich, is they're going to put out a blog post a week or 2 before the map comes out, and they're just going to say a ton of stuff, and we're going to be like, great, now we know what the wonder weapon is, instead of being able to load into the map and people find it and they're like, oh my god, it's the shield of Poseidon, and we're fighting a fish monster for the boss. We could find that out ourselves, but they don't really let us. So it's a mix of leaks, and also Treyarch needs to just pipe down a little bit. I know they want to build hype, but you can do that. Remember Tainted Love from Cold War's hype trailer? You didn't explain everything in the game, but I can't hear that song and not think zombies anymore. There's ways to market and explain your game and your map without giving everything away. So for me, I love that the leaks are not there. We can talk more about it, but what are your thoughts on the leaking situation?
Yeah, man, it's a fantastic thing, and the thing is that the leaks are still there. Like, if you're in the right Discord server and in contact with the right people, like, obviously these people have not stopped digging through the files, they've just stopped publicly sharing what they've found. And all in all, I think that's a great thing. I think Zombies leans on the element of surprise a lot of times when it is really good. I think that's a huge thing for getting the hype going, is not, ironically, not knowing what's coming. And it makes me wonder how much of, because you brought up a great point, Treyarch does shoot themselves in the foot with marketing a lot of times. I'm wondering how much Treyarch is allowing their marketing to let more out, just knowing that people already know it because of the leaks, if that makes sense. So maybe now that the leaks are almost completely shut down to the public eye, that maybe they don't feel like they have to overshare because they're not assuming that it's things people already know. I had a thought while you were talking too related to Treyarch, which is that we have been begging for transparency for years, and I think they've gotten a lot better, especially with Black Ops 7. They've been doing incredible things over on Twitter and on YouTube with the dev talks. Like they're I think really paying attention and responding to not just blue checkmark accounts, but just random people asking questions with like the Call of Duty CM account, which is a great thing. But I think one thing that has to be said is there's a difference between, how do I want to say this? There's a difference between transparency and marketing. That might not be exactly the right words I want to say, but I can explain it as like, transparency is more for, how do I want to say this?
I feel like I might be able to explain it for you if you want to give me a shot at it.
Please.
I think they might have misunderstood what we wanted in transparency. It doesn't mean we want to know everything about the map before it comes out. We just want to know why you're making some of the decisions you do make, a lot of times in relation to mechanics of these things. So we want to be transparent on why you're doing things. We don't necessarily need to know what you're doing, and that's where the marketing can show teasers of what's to come, but you don't have to tell us everything. You don't have to be ultra transparent when you're marketing the game. Just be transparent on the back end when people have questions after the fact. Be willing to answer why these things happen. Or like when it comes to Paradox Junction, be willing to answer, why did you choose Nuketown? And I believe they did answer that. I don't remember the answer, but that is something they answered. They didn't have to tell us 6 months in advance that it was Nuketown. We don't need that kind of transparency, but we would like to know after the fact why that happened. Is that kind of what you were getting at potentially?
That's fantastic. Yeah, transparency is for somewhat present, but more for past events and decisions. Marketing is for things in the future, and yes, that doesn't mean tell us everything that's coming. As exciting as that can be for some people, as I said, Zombies thrives on the element of surprise and mystery, and I think that needs to be kept a little more sacred and held closer to the chest than it has been recently. But yes, you said it fantastic.
Okay, sweet. And I agree that it needs to be sacred, that we keep these things secret. It is important that we do that. I also think it's important that I just quick double back and do a little, what is it, CYA, cover your ass moment. And I'm not here to say anything bad about people like Ghost of Hope who are doing these leaks. This is not anything against that account. I don't care that you did that. I don't have anything against you for doing that. Heck, I checked your tweets a lot when there was information out there. I'd be like, well, I heard something. Let me go see what he said. But I am glad that it's not there anymore. It's not so publicly available. So nothing against the people that were doing it prior, but I do think it is a good thing that those accounts have been stopped from openly leaking things.
I agreed. I followed many of those accounts out of spite, not in spite of them, but I think there was an aspect of, because it's being leaked so publicly and I'm so deep in the community, like I'm gonna find out anyways. So if that is the case, I want to find out as soon as I can. I don't want to be late on, the things that everyone else knows. So yeah, it was kind of following them in spite of knowing that I was already gonna know, unfortunately. But yeah, it's nothing against them, and there is an audience for it. But all in all, I think it's a good thing, just for the sanctity of the mode itself and the story and the Easter eggs and all these sorts of things that they stay in their little corner of people who really have to know all these little details ahead of time. I'm just not one of those people, and I don't think the general public is either. And in fact, I think most people do not want to know.
No, they do not. And that's kind of the unfortunate part of the content creation side, is that we do kind of want to be informed, but we also need to be informed. And you also don't want to be late to the party. If something big gets leaked or whatever, people are going to talk about it. And so you want to talk about it as well and jump on that. And I know that sounds bad, but that is how it works. You want to talk about things that are relevant because people are going to care about that. They're going to listen to what you're saying more. So you kind of get backed into a corner of, I don't want to know this stuff, but it's going to get out anyway. People are going to talk about it. I guess I would also like to be able to talk about it, so I might as well find out myself.
Yeah, I think there's sort of different sects to this community, whether it's being a content creator and wanting to be, first on the jump of getting all this information, and then there's the hardcore audience that is really deep into all these things that doesn't necessarily rely on having to have all this information very quickly, but maybe wants to or maybe doesn't want to. It depends the type of person you are. And then there's the casual sort of public audience that, knows about zombies, plays here and there, and there's arguments to be made that they probably won't care about all these sort of details that, like, it's funny. I think the public doesn't care about all the details, so the only people that are getting it are the people that don't want to see it.
Yes, that is an unfortunate irony to the situation.
Yes, these details are aimed at people that require cool things to get hyped when, hey, it's a new zombies map. I don't care what it is. But they're getting all this extra information. So it's a weird spot, and admittedly, it's a tough line to toe for Treyarch, and I feel for them in certain aspects of this conversation. But over time, I think they will learn, and I think they are learning, and all in all, that's a good thing. In this sort of leak shutdown is hopefully a step in the right direction for that, so Treyarch can stop assuming that we all already know anything or everything. So maybe their marketing can reflect that or not reflect that.
Would sure hope so. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I guess we'll see with Totenreich, and that might tell us if they were revealing everything because they thought we already knew, or if that's just what they think is right, and I wouldn't really understand that, but that might be what they do. Something I thought of while you were talking there is, if it was this easy to stop the leaks, why did it take this long? What was the trigger for it? Was it really that they were that worried that there was so much bad information about Modern Warfare 4 and even things relating to just Paradox Junction? People are getting very riled up over the Nuketown stuff. Is it because they finally just thought that if we stop the leaks, then people won't be upset when these things come out? Or I guess I don't really understand a lot. Why now, if it was literally that easy to send a piece of paper and suddenly everything's gone? No more leaks.
That is a great question. There might be an argument to be made that they knew that certain people would be seeking out these leaks and that it may get them hype, so it may have been a sort of free advertisement situation in their mind for some time. What sticks out to me is what kind of started this whole community response thing, aside from how well Black Ops 7's launch was with the dev talks and everything. Was it a lot of this to me started with the shutdown of the idea of a zombie standalone game, and that just breaks my heart that that's what it took for them to be like, okay, we need to talk to these guys. Like,
I do think that's crazy. That's when they finally decided to talk, because when we had something to be excited about, they're like, hey, by the way, no.
It was so out of left field and so unexpected that we got like confirmation that a leak was incorrect from the horse's mouth. And it was something that I mean, I don't know anyone that was making an argument against a standalone zombies game. So I mean, maybe they saw the response, and while they were shutting down the rumor that it was currently a game currently being made, that maybe seeing the response will spark the idea to actually make it happen. Although I don't think so. To me, they're kind of genius for selling a game with modes that are so distinct, and people will buy the full price of the game for a third of it. Like there are people that will only play zombies, but they still get all the money all the same. So I don't know.
I fall into that party. I tend to just play zombies, especially nowadays. Back in the day, I'd play all the stuff, and then I dropped the campaigns, and then eventually I dropped the multiplayers, and now I'm just kind of like, I'm here for the zombies. I know what I'm here for. But it is tragic that was when they finally decided to speak up, was when it was time to possibly talk about a standalone zombies game after all these years. But then the other copium side of that, they're just lying. They don't want you to know that they actually are making it. And it's coming. It's going to be here in 2028 for the 20th anniversary of Zombies from World at War, and we're getting it. So this is actually a reverse psychology confirmation that we are getting a standalone Zombies game in 2028. Mark it in your calendars.
So many people make promises on this podcast that are not kept, and it somehow falls on me.
Well, listen, my phone will be on in 2028. Feel free to let me know how bad I screwed you over when that doesn't come out and people come attacking you for what I said.
All right, with all that said, I would like to give Cinerax the floor and just tell the people anything that he has on his mind before we wrap this thing up. So what do you got, brother?
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you for bringing me on here. This was a really fun time. My first time ever doing a podcast in any form. So I'm glad that you were here to do that with me and bring me along with all your expertise, because you got a lot more than me. So thank you for having me here. Hopefully you enjoyed having me around. I enjoyed being here with you. So thank you for all that. And then the other thing I want to mention is that in this summer, there is going to be another run of the Zombies for Charity event, which happens every year. This year, I actually was invited to be a part of it. So I'm here to try to push the word out that it exists and you should go, you should support it, you should watch it, and you should try to donate, because it is for charity. It's ultimately for a good cause. If you want more information, you can of course find that on their Zombies for Charity Twitter or YouTube account and go from there. So please check it out. Please donate if you're able to. We would appreciate it a ton. Devi, back to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Please go check out everything to do with Zombies for Charity this year. It's for a great cause, and any support is so appreciated. Of course, go support Cinerax. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Without Shorbsy, I didn't know what I was going to do. So thank you again. You're a wonderful guest. And thank you guys all for watching episode 10. I can't believe we're in the double digits already. Shorbsy, shout out to you, brother. Wish you could make it. But with all that said, thank you guys again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. You know everything to do. And come join the Discord. We're getting more and more people in here by the day, and we love just talking shop about zombies. So I will leave that link in the description. But until next week, guys, thank you for joining us with the Pack Mentality Podcast. And we'll see you next time. Peace.